Yo, 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 man.
What's
Through
good, bro?
politics,
What's the
episode
word?
7.
Yeah, bro, this is crazy. I really can't even really process that we really just moving along like this on a weekly basis. Like, I think I just asked, like, what episode number is this? Like, at some point,
Mhm.
we're gonna really get confused once you start getting into those real high podcast episode numbers. Episode 100, 101, episode 103. Like,
Yeah.
when we get to episode 10, we definitely gotta have another little segue, a celebration for just getting 10. I know we kind of talked about something at 4, 3 or 4, but 10 is
Mhm.
definitely a milestone. Maybe every 10.
Yeah, getting into the double digits, bro. We gotta pop some champagne, man. We just gotta celebrate the small wins. Small wins build momentum.
For sure.
And yeah, bro, we really hustle along, staying consistent.
For sure,
That's
man.
what we
For sure.
need.
I was just watching this what is it, the Bucks and Portland game before we hopped on here. I did just want to
Mhm.
update really quickly. So we had Milwaukee beating the Bucks. I'm sorry, Milwaukee beating the Trailblazers 108-102. Now,
Mm.
that's a score you may want to be concerned with, just to kind of push on that a little bit. Like, you got the worst team in the league, the Trailblazers, almost
Mhm.
beating the Bucks. It was really 106-102, but I think they had some late game free throws to kind of etch it out a little higher. But the Bucks
Yeah.
have been struggling, like they've been struggling offensively, bro. I was watching the game, man. I think it was over the weekend, bro, and man, my man Dame Lillard couldn't get a bucket to go in the first quarter. It was crazy. He was in there with the first unit, in there with the second unit. Couldn't get a shot to
Mhm.
go in. So that'll be interesting to see how that gels out as the season moves along.
Yeah.
But, you
I
know,
mean, I think that goes along with like every single team when you make like a substantial trade like that and you're trying to adjust a new star into a team's culture, a team's
right.
fan base, their play system, the whole 9 yards. Especially when you're talking about two like top-notch stars. You're not talking about
Yeah,
like a
I agree.
complementary piece. You're talking about people who are both like top 13, 14 in the league type shit. You got Giannis,
For sure.
top 5. You got Dame. He's a top 13, 14 player in the league. Like, um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
And
not
I think
surprised with
too
that.
as
But
well.
again,
I mean, just
Portland.
having Drew Holiday there as long as you did, like, that's some team chemistry that you do lose, on the defensive
Yeah.
end as well, and then on the offensive as well as a main ball distributor. Whereas, Dame Lillard is less of a ball distributor, so guys may start finding themselves in lesser shot positions or lesser looks than previously. So I agree. It's definitely gonna be
Mhm.
something that's gonna have to, come together as the season comes along.
Yeah, I've seen some slight like inconsistencies out of like Damian Lillard and stuff like that. Like he's had a couple of bad games, but at the end of the day, it doesn't surprise me. Is this something that's alarming you, or do you feel like these like slight losses to bad teams are just something that just happens in the league? I feel like it's just something that happens. But
It
what are
was
your thoughts?
something that's a good question because I genuinely thought about that question as we were kind of writing down our talk pass, and I was kind of just looking at NBA standings currently. I'm trying to figure out what's something to be concerned with and what's not to be concerned with. And I think
Mm,
that when I'm taking a look at these Eastern and Western standings in these records, I think that I'm starting to see the Bucks don't concern me right now. The offense not coming along together doesn't concern me. There's a lot of other teams in the NBA who haven't got their offense going yet. I don't think
mm,
I don't think Golden State's got their offense going
no,
yet. And I think
that's
we're
a really
finding a
good
lot of
point.
these younger teams as I'm looking at these records on paper. I think I'm starting to see that these younger teams are more prepared for this regular season than what we have seen from these potential contenders. You know, Los
Mhm.
Angeles Clippers, Golden State Warriors, the Bucks, even Boston.
Even the Knicks at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, even the Knicks. Yeah. Even the Knicks. Yeah. Minus right now, I
Oh,
forgot to put that sidebar in. They are losing to the Suns right now, but
bro, still like the first quarter, man. I ain't trying to talk that, but no, like no, that's a serious thing though. You know, like Julius Randle was playing. the worst brand of basketball that I've seen in my entire
No,
life.
yeah, that's very true. And the Knicks have gotten much better since he's kind of came along with the offensive game. So yeah, for sure. Um, Boston's they just lost to the Magic. They lost to the Hornets. Um,
They're
I'm not
still
gonna
number
say
one in the East, though.
yeah, I'm not saying it's concerning, but in terms of their offense still trying to come along, they're up there with the other
Mhm.
teams. We're still trying to get it jump started. So is it alarming? No, not yet. That's an interesting thing though, looking at the Bucks big picture and what that may look like for Damian Lillard and his legacy. But I don't think we hear too much to talk about them. But
Yeah.
I mean, just in okay, so yeah, so I mean that's perfect segue for what we even want to talk about today. So I mean, with just like these teams that may be concerning you, who's
Mhm.
surprising you, good or bad? Like what
Mhm.
teams are surprising you so far with this current NBA standing?
Bro, there's a couple that stand out. Like, um, when I'm thinking about surprising, like this is a conversation that really goes twofold. Like there's surprising for the good, like for their betterment, like, oh my gosh, this team is actually doing really well right now. And then there's the other half of it where it's like, damn, okay, this is a team that I had really high expectations for. And it's just not panning out the way that I originally thought it was going to be. I'd say, dude, the biggest like one that I've noticed is Orlando Magic being third in the league right now. Like,
I thought they were tied for second.
I mean, right now, in terms of like, and this is also going off of the information I collected 30 minutes ago. So, with all these scores going in tonight, I'm sure this is slightly going to change. But right now, we got Boston as number one. Number two is Minnesota. Three, Orlando. Four, OKC. And
Minnesota's
then
a
five is
West
the Bucks.
team. Oh, why? Okay. I mean, in
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
East, I mean, in the East, they're tied for second right now. I mean, that's probably a bigger. I mean,
Yeah.
they're probably not going to be a contender, but
But
even in
still,
the
just for
West,
the
so they're third
Orlando
in the
Magic,
West right now.
who?
So the Magic are third in the West right now in record.
The Magic are third or is tied for second in the East right now.
Right, but what are they in the league? Like the league standing?
Third for the entire
Third,
league.
okay. Because they're 11-5.
Yeah.
So who's? So you said there you've got Minnesota.
Yep. You got Boston, Minnesota, Orlando, OKC, Bucks, Philly, Dallas, Suns, Denver, and then New York. Those are the top 10 teams in the league right now.
So Magic, they're on the list of surprising teams. And then who else would you say, good or bad?
Um, I'd say, well, I guess I can throw out a bad, bro. Something that, I mean, and it's somewhat expected given their circumstance, but I didn't expect Memphis to be damn near one of the worst teams in the league. Like,
Really?
I thought they were gonna, I thought they were gonna be mid, bro. Like middle tier. But in terms of the entire league right now, let me see. Let me pull this up
And
real
I
quick.
think they definitely made good enough of a case with winning games last year as a young team to make you think that yeah they could be a mid team in the West.
Because they
But
still played all right without Ja
yeah,
Morant when he was going through his stuff. You know what I mean? But right
but
now,
they
bro, they're
also
three
got
and
rid of
12.
players too. And then I think you mentioned not too long ago too, Steven Adams is out. That's the big man anchor
Yeah,
for. I mean, you still got Jared Jackson, but Steven
yeah.
Adams is a solid anchor, bro. Having him on that 5 spot, like. And
Hmm.
really, what that 5 spot does for a lot of players like Jared Jack is it allows them to be a roaming 4 or a roaming 5. It allows them to get those off screen come over help on the defensive side to get those blocks. It just kind of frees them up of that space, bro. That kind of helps that case being a defensive player of the year. You look at Anthony Davis; he was really at his
Yep,
best when he
yep.
had a JaVale McGee or a Dwight
Dwight
Howard.
Howard. Yep, that's exactly who I was just about to bring up. As soon as you said that about Jaren Jack, I thought about, okay, that's kind of what the Lakers are missing right now, so that you can get AD out of the
Mhm.
post more and get him
Right,
away from actually playing the
right,
five.
right. Okay.
Um, but yeah, in terms of surprising players, man, like Minnesota, I also didn't expect them to be that high. Like you already know I'm becoming a huge fan of Anthony Edwards, but um, truth be told, I didn't really expect them to be number one in the West.
Yeah,
I
for sure,
really
for
thought
sure.
that was like
Yeah,
Denver is currently one, two, three, four, fifth in the West right now. I thought Denver had number one locked down for sure. And again, 1 month into the season, so there's still a lot to change, but like that is
right.
definitely surprising. What about you though?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely had the Magic being the top team. That definitely surprised me. But they've got a nice young core that's coming along. You still got Cole Anthony, who's a really good contributing guard. They've got
Hmm.
the Wagner boys, who are really good contributors for the team.
Hmm.
Maurice Wagner, I had for him, they just beat Boston. He had 27 against Boston, and they beat the Celtics a couple days ago. Um,
Hmm.
he's currently,
That's a big
what is he at? So you got Moritz Wagner averaging 12 points off 19 minutes. That's really good. I mean, for the minutes that he's restricted to, averaging 12 points per 19 minutes, that's not bad. And then they got
one.
the
Hmm.
other Wagner guy, the Franz Wagner. He's averaging 18 points per game and 5 points. I mean, 5 rebounds per game. And then obviously you got the
Right.
Branchero kid averaging, close to 20 points per
Yeah.
game. So they've definitely got young talent that's emerging. I think that we'll start to see that record definitely balance out, like you said, as the season goes on. Timberwolves
Hmm.
is they're definitely in there. I didn't see him being number one in the NBA. And then the other Denver was in there too. I thought about Denver, but I wasn't gonna put him in there just because it was the first month. The
Hmm.
Warriors have honestly probably surprised me the most. Um,
Mm.
they're struggling to win games. Um, you've got you've got certain players on there like Klay Thompson, who he's struggling to shoot the ball. Andrew Wiggins is
Mhm.
still kind of finding that he's just kind of like a free range chicken
Yeah.
out there sometimes. He could be effective, but a lot of times he's not effective. Chris Paul, I don't think we've seen him pan out the best. He's a really good addition for him, but I mean, if
Mhm.
you're looking at what you may have given up, I don't think it was worth it. But um, they've definitely surprised me. I thought I thought we were going to be able to see a good regular season record from the Warriors. I think that this will probably translate. Even if they make the playoffs, I think the record is still going to somewhat stay around that 500 ish, record.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
and I think a lot that goes into that as well. Like, I'm glad you brought up Golden State. They just have a bunch of different moving pieces. Like, you got Draymond still serving his suspension, which I think is about to come up in another like 2 or 3 games. But you got that happening. Clay has been having an, let's just keep it real, a god awful season in comparison to what we'd expect out of Clay Thompson. Like the only person who's really lived up to expectations is Curry, and again, that's Curry. He's supposed to do that, but why is Andrew Wiggins not really doing that much? That shocks me a lot. I feel like
mhm.
when they had that title run, when they won a few years back, we saw a side of Andrew Wiggins that we gave him a round of applause. He's a lottery pick. He was number one in his draft class, or was he number two? He was number one, right, when he
He was
got drafted
lottery
to the.
pick. He was number one, number two coming out of Kansas. I mean, he was probably I think he
Yeah.
was number one coming out of Kansas.
Yeah, it was him and Jabari Parker. And I don't know. I just felt like should have been his time to take over. Like it should be Curry and then Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins should be in those talks of being like an all-star, but he's not playing like it right now.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so you couple that with everybody else. I feel like CP's been doing his thing, like being a good guard coming off the bench. Like I don't think
yeah,
you can
for
ask
sure.
for much more out of him. But
I think it's time to
I don't
start
know.
looking at. I think it's time to start looking at what other complementary player do you need that can play next to Steph to be effective, complement him well, and to still get you guys contending. Because Steph's still within his contending years; he can still win you championships. So it's
Yep.
really just about not wasting time. I don't think the Warriors go into a rebuild session, but I think they
Yeah.
go into kind of like I'm not gonna say a win now mentality because I think they got a good balance of still organically developing players, but I think you got to find some sort of balance with somebody who's already ready. Um, if I'm being honest, um, we'll talk about it, later on in the segment of this episode, but there'll be some players that'll free up for the Bulls that I think would be a very good piece for the Warriors.
It's funny. I actually got that stuff written down as well. So yeah, I'm excited to talk to you about that in a minute for sure. But yeah. So those are kind of like the surprising teams. Also, still Dallas. You and I had those conversations about like what the hell is Dallas going to do this season before the season started, and dude,
Mhm.
they hit the ground running. Right now in the West, they're currently third. Like it's real dope to see that they're third in a pretty competitive Western Conference.
Yeah, for sure. I think the style of offense that they are running now is definitely somewhat different than what we've seen in the past. You're seeing a lot. You're seeing Kyrie playing a lot of off ball, brand of
Hmm.
basketball, which I think is working for the Mavs. So I mean, if it's not broken, why fix it? If it's winning you games, you know, there's nothing really to change at this moment. We all know Kyrie can be that lead player, but if you're able to sit
Hmm.
back, score your points, and still help your team be good, you've kind of got to take that role. So I don't really know where he's at in terms of first, second player on that team, but it's definitely a good duo. Um,
Hmm. Shout out to
they
Derek
definitely
Lively too.
surprised me.
That's they center. That's they center. He's been hustling this season as well. Derek
Yeah, for
Lively.
sure,
Shout out to him.
for sure, for sure. So I mean,
Um,
so what about players though? Like, what players have been surprising you this season? Not just teams.
there's a bunch. Ant Man, he made that jump. I ain't gonna talk about him because we already talked about him an episode or two ago. But the one that's really surprised me the most, bro, I'm gonna have to roll with Tyrese Halliburton from the Indiana Pacers. Like we got the Pacers currently sitting at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the East, and they're winning games against really good teams. Bro's putting up some crazy ass numbers. Um,
Yeah,
and
for
I
sure.
expected him to have a good All Star run, but like realistically, Bro's in that top 10 MVP list conversation right now.
I mean, the All Star Weekend is in Indianapolis this year. I mean, you gotta.
Yeah, we got
I'm
we
sure
got to
he's
go to
got
that.
that circle. Yeah, for sure, for sure. My pops was just telling us we should probably look at that. We definitely got to go. That'll be dope to
We
head
got to
over to
go.
Naptown. You feel
Yeah,
me?
small
Check
little
that out.
drive for you, man. A little bunny hop flight.
Yeah,
That's where my people's at too. So yeah, we got to get over to Indianapolis. But
for sure.
yeah, he surprised me. KD, like I won't say KD surprised me because that's Kevin Durant, but like
Mhm.
to see him kind of muscle the stresses of his teammates, his star teammates being injured throughout the season and still keeping the Suns in a good position. That's
For
impressive
sure,
for him
for
at his
sure.
age. The
Yeah.
rest, bro, I'm not really too surprised about, to be real.
Yeah, so
What
I
about you?
definitely had Tyrese Halliburton as well. I mean, I had to note down, bro's averaging 25 points per game and 12 assists a game. He's probably gonna lead the league in assists this year if he's able to keep at that pace. Bro, averaging 25 and 12 in the league, like I haven't really seen the MVP odds, but I'm pretty sure he's got to be in there if he's averaging 25 and 12, bro. I mean, how valuable
Yeah,
is
he's
he to
seven.
So I mean, yeah, so he's on the list. They'll cut that down to 4 and 5 as the season goes on, but still, I
Mhm.
mean, him averaging 25 and 12. Somebody else though that surprised me, I kind of gave up on was Kristaps Porzingis. Um,
Mm.
how he's been playing with the Celtics has been really good. I think that his game and in the injuries and things like that. I think him being on the Celtics complements his game, and I think he complements what they need as well. He's played better down the stretch than Jaylen Brown, if you'd ask me. But yeah, bro,
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a good spot for him. He surprised me. I don't know if it was
Yeah,
good or
it's
bad, but
kind of
he
like that
surprised me.
redemption story. It's kind of like don't get me wrong, he had a good season with Washington last year, but when you and I were talking about when we did our top 10 lists and everything like that for the league, the big conversation was like, okay, yeah, they got Kristaps, but we were looking at him as more of like a third option. When bro really can give you 30 or a little bit more every single night if he wanted to, on top of like blocking, playing good defense. He's fitting into the Celtics like system seamlessly. That I didn't think about that, but that's a good point.
I agree. Yeah. And third, um, it's surprising, but it's not surprising as well, just given the situation of circumstances. Zach Lavine has surprised me. I mean, his averages are still up there, but he's lower than what he has been in past years. I'm gonna chalk that up to just where the Bulls are as a whole. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, he's definitely surprised me. I in my in my opinion, I think he's definitely one of the top. Well, yeah, he is. Him and DeMar DeRozan are some of the prolific scorers in the game. Perimeter players, they can shoot the ball inside and out, and they can play inside ball as well. So
Yeah.
he surprised me, bro. He surprised me, but I think once you get him to a different team in a new environment, I think that's when you'll start to see the Zach Lavine that we've seen on the Bulls and on the Timberwolves for the previous years. Because he just put
So
up like
let's talk about that.
35 the other night.
Let's talk about that a little bit, bro. You got a chance to go to the a game between the Bulls and the Miami Heat about a week and a half ago. So you got a chance to go and actually see these cats play. Um, with that, you have Zach Lavine, who, yeah, you're right, he's a really good scorer in the league. I'm not his biggest fan just because I feel like this is, I don't know if it's something personal. I'm just like, I don't feel like his contract is worth the production that he's given in the league so far, but he's a very valuable piece. Um, the Bulls really aren't utilizing their talent that well. Like they got Zach Lavine and DeRozan on the same team. Um, what teams do you think that those two players could probably fit on a little bit more? Because it seems like the Bulls probably do have to go into a rebuild phase. You have two valuable players, make a trade. Yeah. What are your
So
thoughts on that?
to the first response, him not being worth his contract. If you look at previous years with Zach Lavine from just being on the Bulls, even on the Timberwolves, he was a really good player. But if you look at his averages being on the Chicago Bulls, it would warrant the kind of contract that he's already gotten. Now, obviously, people think that that needs to translate into, that it needs to translate into a championship contending team or more wins. But there's also other pieces that play a role into these organizations not really reaching their full potential. I think that we already knew, bro, the Bulls don't really know what they're doing with the coaching job. I
Hmm.
mean, you've had a couple of guys in there, but nothing that sticks, nothing that's like if these players aren't bought in with what the coach is drawing on this whiteboard, at the end of the day, it don't matter how much you average. That's just gonna be what yeah, translating translates into to wins and the contenders. But if the organization doesn't also follow other footsteps that would be needed to make that championship picture come about, it makes it really hard for these players to really deliver what they want. And that first thing point that I made as well too was the head coaching job. Like you think about the Houston Rockets and look at how vital it was for them to just get Ime Udoka in the first season of their rebuild. They don't even really know where they're going to be at in terms of championship, but you know that you have your coach and you know he's a player's coach. So you know you have no problem with guys following that lead. The Bulls don't have that. And then as well too, man, the surrounding cast, like you lost Lonzo Ball. He was a guy that was going to complement both of these players the best. Kobe White, you haven't really been able to use Kobe White um, for whatever reason, him not being whatever. Um, a lot of things didn't pan out for the Bulls, but I think that his contract is true. I think it's warranted. Now the Bulls situation, sometimes you know what I'm saying, is what have you done for me lately? Your current value is what people look at you as. Um, But you put this guy in a good environment, I think he'll be. I think both of them will still be, lethal shooters. They'll still be prolific scorers. Um, but to answer the second question, teams that I think Demar and Lavine would look good on. Pause would be yeah, that's gonna be and you probably gonna be Lakers. I think
Okay.
the Lakers could use either one of these guys. I think that as the front office, Rob Pelinka, I think you seriously take a look at what you would give up for either of these guys. Um, D'Angelo Russell seems to be in a good space with the Lakers right now, but how does that translate moving forward when we're in a 7-game series? Um, I don't think that D'Angelo Russell is enough. I don't think that his offensive game is distributed. I think his point guard abilities it's enough for us to win something. I think if we have to give up Austin Reeves, I think that we do. I think he's a really good player for our team, but he's I'm starting to struggle. Like, where's this ceiling at for him? Because it's not as high as a I'm trying to think of somebody who could like other role players that have high ceilings. Kyle Kuzma had a really high ceiling as a role player. Um,
Yeah.
Christopher Caldwell Pope, high ceiling for the just as an NBA player. I'm not saying that he won't be good on other teams, but for what the Lakers need, I think it may be time to move on if you can get, you know, either one of these guys. So I think LA, he looks good. I think the Warriors he would look good on. I think that these players can replace Clay in points. I think that they add more of a two-way game than what Clay used to give you. Um, I think that they complement these players well. I think they complement Steph well. I mean, you put him in a Warrior system. DeMar
Hmm.
DeRozan, you look at him on the Spurs, Toronto, he can score the ball with the ball in his hand. He can score it coming off screens. Both of these guys can do that. I think you put him in that system. I think it works for the Warriors. I think the Philadelphia 76ers, I think they
Hmm.
look good at that two spot. I think that
Hmm.
kind of balances out that five, that starting five that they're that they would have. Miami
Yeah.
Heat, and this is going for both of them. I think either of these guys can go on either of these teams. I think Miami needs one of these players. I genuinely
Mm.
think they need it. Bam's really good, bro. That's the only thing I really remember from that Bulls Miami game, bro. Bam is really good. Bam is really good.
Right.
I was betting on FanDuel next play every time he coming down. I know he was going for money inside the two. Yeah, I think he looks good on Miami. Last but not least, I think either of these guys look good on the Knicks.
Okay.
Think either of these, yeah,
Let me
let me
stretch.
hold on, huh? Look at him. Yeah, you got to get up out of that. But here's why though. Here's why for the Knicks. Even if it's not in the playoff, even if it's not in the picture for them to get either of these guys, if you look at Zach Levine from a 2 and 3 spot, he's going to complement your one well, and he's going to complement your 4 and 5 well. Okay, because Zach Levine can guard 1 through 3. Obviously, RJ Barrett can guard somewhere between a 1 through 3 as well. But sometimes you may find yourself with Jalen Brunson on the island. Um,
Mm.
and then I think it just adds better shooting to the team. Like the Knicks have good shooting that they haven't really utilized over the last couple years. So whether they take them or
Yeah.
not, like I don't really see a negative effect from them being placed on either of these teams. Just because like these teams that I've picked out, if you look at their two spot, it's not really. That's
Hmm.
what all these teams really have in common. When I thought about this, was where do these teams fit on that two spot? Like because that's where they're gonna go. Jalen Brunson, he'd be a really good compliment for either one of these guys. Tyrese Maxey would be, Chris Paul would be, Kyle Lowry would be, LeBron, David Russell would be. You know what I'm saying? Who could get these guys the ball? That's really just
Right.
where my assumption comes from that. But yeah, let me know where you think these guys can go.
Yeah. So, couple things you just said, bro. Like our lists are fairly similar. Because yeah, you're right. You can plug and play. They both pretty much play the shooting guard position. I know DeMar's been playing more of a three, but that's only because DeRozan's on the team, and so forth like that. And that's if they're having a point guard. That's if Zach isn't point guard, and then you got DeRozan at the shooting guard. In terms of Lavine, the way I break this down in my mind, because you said a bunch of different teams, like you said my Knicks and stuff, I don't agree with the Knicks just because of how extreme Bro's contract is. If I'm giving somebody $40 to $45 million over the next 3-4 years, I expect that player to be a Luka Doncic, a KD, even Devin Booker's only making $33 million a year right now. So when you talk about like the math of it, I don't think it warrants giving someone like Zach Lavine that type of money. Not saying he's a bad player. Sure, when he got the contract, he was hooping. But truth of the matter is, it's widely known in the NBA that and it's the reason why he hasn't been traded yet, is that he has a terrible contract. And so with the Knicks, everybody's on team-friendly deals. Julius Randle, All NBA. He has 2 All NBAs over the last few years. To Zach Lavine, 0. He gets paid $25 million a year. Jalen Brunson makes
Right, but where do
100.
you see these where do you see these guys going though? I
But hear
understand
me
they
out.
may not be.
Yeah. Yeah, like hear me out. I hear what you say when you talk about where do you see them going. When you talk about putting someone with a $45 million contract, that's going to sink that ship if that player isn't making his team all the way around better. Like if you go and bring a KD in on a $45 million contract to the Knicks, they're better. He's going to be a much better game changer than Zach Lavine is. Zach Lavine isn't a game changer. He's a
Do
great
you
player. He's
see
a good player, but he's not a game changing player to
exactly?
fuck up your starting lineup.
And do you see the picture that I illustrated in like a couple minutes ago about the other bro? A championship is more than just players, bro. It's a cumulative thing that everybody puts in with these organizations. So
Mm-hmm.
with we've already seen that, bro. Just because you put a $45 million KD on a team, it does not translate into a championship, and that's one of the reasons
I
why
agree.
he left. Whether you put KD on the Knicks or you put KD on the Nets, he wasn't winning a championship. Why? Because these other teams, when it comes to the front office, the other pieces have to be in play, and I think that's one thing we may not have understood with KD at some point with the
Mm-hmm.
OKC thing. But like, bro, like these players can hoop and hoop and hoop and hoop. Like, bro, you got to get coaches, you got to get role playing players, you got to get good
Mm-hmm.
management. Like, bro, there's so many things, and I think as well too. Like, we could talk about what teams wouldn't take him with this contract. A team is going to take him with this contract. And for me, it's just really even like, bro, like with DeMar, bro, he was hooping on Toronto. But whoa, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, outside of LeBron, like you didn't really have. They got all the other factors after without him, basically. You know what I'm saying? Even if you gave up and got Kawhi, they ended up losing a lot, really, in what they
Mm-hmm.
didn't get back for him. But I definitely
Yeah.
understand what you're saying, bro. But if the Knicks
Yeah.
had the right pieces for him, it would make sense. But okay, so then does DeMar look good on the Knicks for you
Yes. $28
because of
million
his
dollars a year.
contract?
$28
So
million
you're
dollars
looking
a
at it
year.
from
You
the
can
owner's
hold on,
perspective.
listen to me, bro. Listen to me, bro. You got to think about it. It's a business. And what I'm saying is when you come and plug and play certain contracts in, now you have to budge away certain players. Now you have to ship off somebody. Getting in a DeMar, or not a DeMar, but a Zach Lavine at $40 million a year, that may cause you to get rid of a Mitchell Robinson, who is a defensive anchor, because he's on a solid contract. This is all about balance. And when you start messing up the books, you have to start giving away certain key players. And I don't think that fits. Now, what I will say for Lavine, I think the perfect fit for him would be LA. And the reason being, y'all have a bunch of it goes into that meme. Everybody can hoop except for when they get over to LA. Y'all got a bunch of really solid role players that are on good friendly contracts that y'all could really bulk up and ship off. The ones who ain't really playing the best in the Lakers system. I think Zach Lavine complements a LeBron and an AD perfectly, and then you can match their contracts all together. Like that's something you can go and get a couple of smaller role players in and turn that around into a more of a championship contending player. I like that idea. Another one that I'm kind of liking is the Pacers, like Tyrese Halliburton, Zach Lavine, and Miles Turner, with Obi Toppin at the 4. That's a solid little team right there. But that's also I'm looking at it from the standpoint of where can these guys fit in. But DeRozan, I'm thinking more so Philly, because like you said, they even though they're actually playing
You
really
do
good, they
not
really
leave
don't.
Chicago for Indiana, cuz.
It's going
You
to be a
already
better
got your
system.
bread. Both teams losing. Just stay in the city, man. Stay in the city. They
Oh
better in the
no,
city.
hey, Indiana look like they in a pretty good spot right now. So yeah, it would suck because Indy ain't no shy, but I think that's a better
Right.
situation than the Bulls right now. Um, like I said, with DeRozan, I said Philly because Tyrese Maxey, DeRozan, Tobias Harris, even though you might actually end up losing Tobias and then Joel Embiid,
Right.
I like that.
Right.
But truth be told, I like DeRozan for the Knicks, man. I think with his contract, that's $28 million. That's a team friendly deal. You may get rid of a couple people. I'd do a swap on like RJ Barrett. I'd go and get a DeRozan, switch out RJ Barrett, and then maybe we got a lot of draft capital. That's something that works.
And it's like, bro,
Um,
like even in just that small scenario, if you just were to swap a RJ Barrett and a DeMar DeRozan, like, bro, the shooting gets better.
it
Like
does.
Brunson being at the 1 does so many wonders for you. Now, I've seen RJ Barrett hit the corner 3. I've seen him hit the when they drive and kick the 3. Now that's a good that'll get you paid in the NBA when you can be a 3 and D type of player, which I think he'll be at some point, the corner 3 guy.
Yeah.
Um, but then it's like, man, like I don't want to link too much of this of the Donovan Mitchell to the Knicks because you don't really want to bank too much on the future. So it's like getting these two players. What does that do to that perimeter guard spot? I mean, you may have to get rid of Jalen Brunson if you got Buddy calling.
Yeah, you got Donovan Mitchell trying to pull up. Like, as much as I love Brunson, bro, like I would prefer to have and this is also talking about if DeRozan's on that team, because truth be told, what it's really looking like is probably going to happen is it's going to be Jalen Brunson and then Donovan Mitchell comes in next year. So then it's like the question, okay, are you the Knicks? Do you be patient and keep your draft capital, or do you risk it and make New York Knicks fans happy and try to win this season?
But
Uh,
then it's like as
who
well
knows?
too, bro. Julius Randle, bro. I don't know. Some judges be off about me with bro. Like I feel like he not a locker room problem, but like, bro, if we get somebody on the Knicks who we like, because right now like Julius Randle is teetering this little position of like being the best player on the Knicks and not being the best player. Then you bring
Yeah.
somebody in and it's just like, bro, you're not better than me. Like you got to take this back seat. How does Julius Randle act then for the Knicks? Like, is he gonna be a role
Yeah.
player, a containing good team guy, or is he gonna?
Well, I think we know that about Julius Randle. Like you've heard me complain about it enough. Like I don't think Julius Randle is the number one option on a championship contending team. I don't think he'll ever get to that point in his entire career. Good player. I think he's could be a second or third option on a championship contending team. More so third, like that Kristaps situation. Like it's like, okay, I can fit you into the right system. Um, and you be yourself. You can go, man, give us 30 every once in a while. I think that's better his like his situation, but he's also on a team friendly deal. So it's like, yeah, the Knicks have to make that choice. Hey, do we go all in? Like I said, I think Donovan Mitchell is going to be a Knick a year from now. What does that look like? Because you at that point you still got like another year on Julius's deal. Does a Jalen Brunson, a Donovan Mitchell, a RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson team contend for a championship or like a finals appearance? I personally think so. That's a
Mhm.
great ass lineup right there.
I can see somewhere within that. Okay.
You got
So
three
what
All
was your
Stars on your
player
team,
again?
or at least what'd you say?
What was the four for you again that they would be good to? LA,
Oh,
76ers.
I think both of them would be good in Golden State. To be honest, I think getting with Golden State, and bro, we got to bring Dennis on the show at some point because I really would love to hear from a true fan of that franchise. The way you speak about LA, the way I speak about the Knicks is the same way D talks about the Warriors. And in that type of situation, bro, I think Lavine and DeRozan would be really good fits to Curry on the Warriors.
For sure. Well, I mean, we'll see. I think in the coming weeks, I think a trade will definitely start being put together for both of these players.
Yeah, and I think they deserve it, bro. There's certain players in the league you don't want to see them kind of like wasting their prime years in mediocrity. You know, like DeRozan, he doesn't have a chip right now. He should be in that win now like mode. I'm surprised he hasn't requested a trade, and that just probably goes to his kind nature. He seems like a real chill dude, but Zach Lavine, he's visibly frustrated, but obviously with his contract, that's just a little bit harder to pick up. I really hope these players like get to really good contending locations.
For
Um,
sure.
it'll be better for them, dude. But yeah, we'll see. You think in a couple weeks though, or you think that'll be something that's closer to like the trade deadline that we see something actually happen?
I think we could see something closer to the trade deadline. I think a lot of these front officers are waiting, seeing how guys will pan out. You know, you got these way too early guys who come out smoking gun and then they kind of die out as it goes on. I think we'll start to
Right.
see somewhere within this next month how players and things will be starting to be pieced together.
Right. I guess we'll see, man. And as stuff starts to happen, we'll definitely be on here to talk about it in future episodes. So yeah, bro, we're right around time. Really solid episode 7, Hoop Politics. Hope y'all enjoyed. Peace.